What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka the Senator of Chaos and Controversy, and I'm here with another video speaking on the subject matter or the topic concerning the critical race theory. Okay, um, and I spoke or I touched upon it somewhat, not in its entirety, or it really being the basis of my video in regards to the debate, you know. But I'm gonna point out, what I noticed about the whole disapproval of the critical race theory argument. Um, I noticed in these parent teacher conferences, in the videos that I've seen so far. I've probably gone to like 3 or 4 videos, and I noticed that the ones who have a real issue with this, and this is by observation now, um, but the ones who I notice have a real issue with this are white female mothers, parents, or whatever. And they're presenting their argument saying, what should be something that is left up to the parents to address their kids at home versus, you know, the what's in the curricular in school. To an extent, I get that. I understand where they're coming from. Um, as far as uh, like their issues with police, or should I say, the discussion dealing with or concerning police or whatever. And I've always said that depending on what demographics you live in, not everybody's experience is going to be the same. You know what I'm saying? You could live in a gated community or upper class community. You might have a good relationship with law enforcement and stuff like that. Kudos to you. And poor and disenfranchised areas and stuff like that, your relationship with the cops may not be so kosher, and they might approach you with particular prejudices and stereotypes, and looking at you like you're a thug or a criminal, or you know, I mean, and people say, well, it depends on how you dress and it depends on your appearance and your presentation. But you get people who work for the state, who work for the judicial system, who's had their interactions with police, and they could come back and give you a testimony that, regardless of your presentation, the treatment that you get from law enforcement happens, especially to those, you know, I guess you want to say, people of color, you know, on a level where it don't matter what you look like. You know what I'm saying? You could be a doctor, or a lawyer, or you can even be a police officer your damn self, and still get, the animosity thrown in your direction. And I'm speaking because, like, I've seen videos dealing with the situation with the critical race theory. I've also watched videos and people's testimony and documentary on like what policing is like here in this country. And people may make excuses for law enforcement, sugarcoat shit, deflect, make excuses, try to justify, but you know, I'll boomerang back to that whole thing. Now, in regards to them talking about what is being taught or what is being pushed to be taught in these schools and these classes based on the critical race theory, and they said it's going to cause further division. I'm going to tell you something right now. It doesn't take what they teach in school to divide a country, because we're right now at this particular point, and you're using this talking point to say that this is going to cause division here in America. We are already divided based on what was going on in history. Who orchestrated the division then? But people are that ignorant and that dumb to want to sit there and place the blame and be in fear of what? Somebody telling you what actually happened in history, and it's not going by a particular narrative written by who? See, I mean, I'd understand the argument if, if, if it had concrete validation. But it's kind of like when people know and you catch a little wind of something and they're like, oh man, see, now we were so comfortable with like pointing the finger at this particular group of minorities and making them out to be the boogeyman, making them out to be the problem, demonizing them and stuff like that, and putting them down and frowning upon them and stuff like that, to now where you're giving a reminder of who the boogeymen were in this country and who terrorized who. Oh, we don't want to reflect on that. We don't want to remember that. And when you got books that is not taught in school that you can go to the library or you can look it up, and go to a bookstore and stuff like that, and you're forced to basically do your own research because nothing is really taught about the actual events that occurred in history in full detail without alternate versions to support one person's narrative and stuff like that. Even if the parents win in this, it doesn't matter because they don't teach shit in school anyway. So, they huffing and puffing. They're all getting all emotionally charged and saying, oh, we don't want this to be taught in this school and all this other whatever. Who I don't think, whatever. Yeah, but look at it this way. This is what I want to remind people of, especially those white parents in their self-entitled position to want to throw out and cast their complaints and their concerns and being all, this is what we have an issue with. This is what we're taking up with the school board, and this is we're gonna express our disapproval of. Yes, this is what we're going to do. Okay, well, all right. You have that right to voice your disapproval. You have a right to voice your concerns. And on some talking points, I may agree with you with some of them. Okay? But what I have a problem with is I'm aware of, and being that it was brought to my attention, and being that I had to learn this because this is something that they don't teach you in school. I've learned of the fact that, and everybody want to jump on like things of the past, like slavery. My people didn't own slaves, and you weren't a slave, and this and that. That's the go-to rebuttals that people have when they want to lash out at you, especially when they're talking to people who aren't of their culture, who aren't of their race, who aren't of their particular groups. You know. But it doesn't negate the fact or take away from the point of the matter of, in this country, things has happened. In this country, things have been brushed to the side. In this country, things didn't really get resolved. Understand? And when people talk about the privilege, people talk about more so of people have the power, the control, and the privilege to conveniently ignore events. And there's no accountability taking place. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to the education, I am fortunate enough to say that my parents worked hard. My parents didn't ask for any handouts. My parents worked together as a team. My parents got the education, went to college. As I said before, my father was a tool and die maker by trade. He did his time in the Air Force and stuff like that. Had an associate's degree for some time. got a job coming out the Air Force working at Pratt and Whitney, make as a tool and die maker, making machines that made the parts for aircraft engines and stuff like that in East Hartford, Connecticut. My mom, who was from Georgia, because my father's from North Carolina, they moved up north to Connecticut. My mom, she was from Atlanta, Georgia. She had her bachelor's degree, and she worked for the IRS. And she had a realtor's license, and they both were landlords. They owned like four rooming houses because I remember every freaking Saturday my sister and I had to get up with my dad and go collect rent from the four houses that they had owned. Um, and they instilled work ethics in us and responsibility. And yes, we had got a good education. We were sent to private schools. Now, this is giving you my upbringing, okay? And yes, I was adopted into an all black family. Hmm. Why was I adopted into an all black family? I don't know. Maybe because, um, like I said in my when in regards to my history, which I said before wasn't kosher. I'm biracial. My biological mom was white. She committed suicide. Didn't tell anybody who my dad was. Okay? Did you think her family wanted me? No, they didn't want no fucking nigger baby in their fucking family. Oh no. Which is part of the reason why I believe that disapproval drove her to committing suicide. Okay? Now, but I'm not quite certain of the details behind why she committed suicide, but I could pretty much guess and fill in the gaps and stuff like that. Anyway, um, but my education was what I was taught. I was taught the basics. I was taught, Bible study and stuff like that. I was taught we had religion classes. We had the standard math, the standard English, history, um, physical education, and art, and pretty much that was it. That was it growing up and attending Catholic schools and stuff like that. Um, and I had a good education, and it was paid for. Okay, so now, but when it comes to history, now I say that to say this: even with me going to a private school and getting a good education and being ahead of those who attended public schools, okay, um, they really didn't teach anything tangible. You know, you learn about what current events. Which I feel sorry for the kids today who has to learn about current events because information you can't trust the information that you're given because there's always going to be various narratives. So you don't know what to believe because people spin it to fit, what they see fit. Okay, but with that being said, the history that's taught about the past also had a narrative spun to what they saw fit. And that's a problem. You don't learn about things, especially when it comes to the African American community. We don't really know much about our history. We have to go research that stuff. We have to go look it up. We have to go look at the contributions of the black people and what they contributed here in this country. It's not taught. It's all about what the white folks did. You know what I'm saying? It's all about where they stood in their place here in this country and stuff, and everybody else was neglected. You don't know much about the indigenous people. You don't know much about the Asian people. You don't know much about the Hispanic people. And I've joked about this too. And I do it because it's part of my sarcasm, but it's part of me like making a point too. I said, you know what? And it came from me looking at some of the rhetoric because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to admit it. A lot of people don't want to make it known because they just want to focus on things that they don't want to be concerned with. You know, because like I said, what doesn't affect certain people, they rather just I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. Leave me alone with that shit. Go somewhere else. Go take your talking point somewhere else. I'm sorry you had to go through that shit, but it doesn't concern me. That's the mentality of these people today. And when I say these people, certain people who have a problem with other people discussing things that has affected them. And when I talk about self entitlement and privilege, that's what I'm talking about. You have the privilege to want to sit there and be like, this is what I want to allow, and this is what I don't want to allow my kids to be exposed to. That's funny. That's funny. That's very funny. Because sometimes I have to question what it is that kids are exposed to in their homes for them to come out and stuff like that and have some kind of bigotry or some prejudices or some things that come out their mouth to other kids and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Where did they learn that stuff from? But you more worried about what the schools are teaching the kids, right? What about what the parents are teaching the kids? You know? Anyway, but when it comes to history, especially in the black community, they don't teach you everything. They don't teach you about, well, you already know about who our adversaries were, who were boogeymen to us, who were terrorists in our communities and stuff, who ran us out of certain neighborhoods, ran us out of our homes, burnt us out of our homes, made sure we couldn't work in certain areas, live in certain areas, made sure we couldn't get banking, fair housing, um, get in certain levels in jobs and stuff like that. At one point, we weren't allowed an education. We weren't allowed to read or write. It was against the law for any black person to do any of those things. But people don't want to reflect upon that. You know what I'm saying? And then when it came to us finally getting an education, or when there was the stop to segregation, and then you had integration and stuff like that, there was still some issues and stuff because people weren't allowed to go outside of certain districts to better their kids' education. Why is that? Yeah. So, when I talk about control, people have the privilege to control certain things, but they don't want to, while they're sitting there conveniently complaining about stuff, because, it's funny how when it comes to other people looking at people saying, oh, they're always complaining about something. Oh, they always playing the role of victims and stuff like that. Okay, but you're saying that, but the same shit that you criticizing other people for, you stepping into that same role and conveniently complaining and bitching about things that are trivial. You know what I'm saying? Um, and like I said, if you really want me to give my opinion about what I think schools should be teaching, I tell you what I think schools should be teaching that isn't taught and conveniently left out. I believe that schools should teach kids, basically the foundation of living. You know what I'm saying? They should be taught how to manage their money. They should be taught how to invest in like stock and stuff like that. The upside and the downside of investing and things of that nature. Um, like, you know, especially when it comes to the interaction with police, because this is the one thing that police love to throw up in people's face. Uh, Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I be laughing because I'm saying, but you're law enforcement. You're not a lawyer. You didn't go to school for X amount of years and you didn't have to take the bar exam. Oh, but you're a civil servant. So, like, when you're unsure of why you have to write somebody a ticket, you go back to your car, go in the fucking glove compartment, pull out the book, and you have to look up something to write down on a ticket and justify the citation. So I think that kids also should learn about the law, you know, because that's how they get over on many of us due to the ignorance and our lack of knowledge of the law, and what we are entitled to in regards to our rights, you know. Um, the justice system. The justice system is a joke, you know. And people say, you know what, the whole issue with the police is fabricated, it's exaggerated and stuff like that. But do you guys really sit down and look at all the things that law enforcement has gotten away with and gotten over on people? And yes, it's highlighted their interactions with a lot of the questionable interactions in the black community. But like I pointed out before, it isn't just black people who take up issue with law enforcement. People, and this is why when I was saying that the war on drugs is a joke, because it gave people who work for law enforcement or whatever agency and policing that people traveling with large sums of money, it got confiscated. Basically, police were acting like pirates, robbing people, civilians, of their money. There are people that were taking money, cash money, that they saved or, that they got a loan from to go invest in businesses. And based on traveling and stuff, cops pulled them over and took their money. Then they had to go to court to fight to get their own property back. Or 9 times out of 10, people don't have the money. They took the money that people would have used to get a lawyer to fight to get their money back and stuff like that. Um, and then finally, after I guess all the attention got highlighted on that subject and stuff like that, oh, then people talking about, oh yeah, that's a problem and stuff like that. Y'all know what y'all was doing, and then this is the problem. People always are making excuses for law enforcement and their actions. As long as they sit in the comfortable areas of whatever their high class society and whatever neighborhoods, gated communities and stuff like that, they don't care, and they'll tell you, like if they don't know you, whether you belong or not, and stuff like that. Um, anyway, um, but in regards to law enforcement, I heard one parent say that schools are teaching kids to hate cops. No, cops are teaching people to hate cops. You don't need a school for that. Especially in some communities, no, that is not taught. Life's experience teaches you that shit. You don't need the input of a school board or school district or school facilities to have people formulate their opinions about police. Police interaction formulates opinions about police. So the parent can sit her ass down with that fucking nonsense. She's probably married to a damn cop. What about, better yet, since a lot of people like to throw out statistics and stuff like that, a lot of times cops are charged with domestic violence. There's a video I saw where there was a cop. He was brought in his uniform, and other cops took the scissors and stripped him up out of his uniform because he had beat his girlfriend or his wife to a pulp. You can see the arrogance and the smug look on his face. But when it came to their own and stuff, boom. And that was like virtually surprising that I see like any of the officers disapproving of another officer's conduct. But that had to do with domestic. That ain't had to do with their interaction with the public. Because certain things they'll disapprove of or frown upon, but then there's other things that they'll condone and let slide conveniently, right? So, that's what I wanted to say about that. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, and I find it, like I said, going back to who I find have an issue with it. Like I said, I didn't see many of parents that were Hispanic, black, I did see one Asian woman in one of this Congress hearing about it. So I just like, okay, you one of them, Indian or whatever. I don't see none of them having any kind of what you call it, disapproval of the critical race theory. And this is why I say to some of those people that aren't white that have an issue with certain things, in regards to what is taught in history. You should have a concern about what isn't taught in history because we don't know much about our history. Why is that? Why is things conveniently left out? Or conveniently altered, or some of the facts is distorted. But people are comfortable with a whitewashed, sugar-coated version of what they present to you to make everything seem all hunky-dory. Yeah, but it's not. You don't want to talk about what black people had to go through in the military at that time, years ago. You don't want to talk about Tulsa and the bombing of Black Wall Street. You don't want to talk about Rosewood. You don't want to talk about other massacres. You don't want to talk about what black soldiers had to go through, when they had to go fight um, the Germans and stuff like that. And how some of their own soldiers, their white counterparts, slaughtered them and stuff like that. Or how they were treated after, when they were bringing back German POWs and stuff. And the German POWs was treated better than the Negro American soldiers. But we don't want to talk about those truths. What about the athletes and stuff like that and what they had to go through and stuff? Because, the argument is that, athletes don't have no place when it comes to voicing their political beliefs, but their position in sports was based off political. You know what I'm saying? Um, Jesse Owens, Muhammad Ali. Those are just a few that are familiar that people can go look up and see what they had to go through. You know what I'm saying? Muhammad Ali didn't want to fight the white man's war with the Vietnamese. And what did America say to him? Yeah, don't get me started. And then people were talking about the Black Panthers and stuff like that, being taught about the Black Panthers and stuff like that. Well, first of all, the FBI and the CIA, they already orchestrated the deaths of people, and the whole thing about the Black Panther movement, when it came to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, white people don't want black people having guns and stuff, but they sure want to make it known that they want their guns, all types of guns and stuff like that, so they can come and threaten you and assassinate you at any given snap of a finger, right? But that shit got flipped when the Black Panthers said, hell no, we're going to stand our ground. We are no longer going to be threatened by those that are a threat to us. We're going to provide education for our kids. We're going to provide food meals, and medical services and stuff like that. But they don't teach that shit in fucking school. No, they want to say that, oh, the Black Panthers was a terror organization and let the KKK slide. You didn't see black people on the Black Panthers going to white folks' homes and shit, burning their shit down, car bombing them, assassinating their children in fucking churches and shit. But you sure as hell saw white people doing that to black people, but we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that because when it makes one group look bad and shit, while they're busy making another group look bad and shit, oh, we can't have that. It's okay for one person to fucking, demonize one group, but the one doing the demonizing are the fucking devils themselves. Go figure. And then white people don't even talk about the truth. And I've explained it before. Unless you are rich, unless you have some greater influence in society, and, and unless you are in a position of power where you can control things, move the pieces on the chessboard, orchestrate certain things, it doesn't concern you. Because, like I said before, why was division? Why was there division? If you really want to learn about the truth behind division, research the history. Research when it came to interracial relationships and who made it against the law, who enforced a prohibition in Virginia in 1705. And I'll give you that little example. When you start looking that shit up, and then come back to me and tell me who's responsible for division in this country. Because white people are quick to get offended, but it's okay for you to allow certain people in certain positions of power to do what they do. And you don't stand up against them. Instead, you take your fight to the people who are resisting against those people who are putting this bullshit in place. So when I say that people know what they're doing, you're fighting the wrong people. You are fighting the wrong people. You're telling people not to take a stand. You're telling people not to stick up for themselves. You're telling people to allow the shit to just continue to happen to them and be okay with it. Be complacent, turn the other cheek. Be forgiving. You know, sometimes you get tired of forgiving motherfuckers for shit. Especially when they don't give a fuck about you. And they apparently express that they don't give a fuck about you. So with that arrogant, condescending attitude that, you know, people project onto others, be responsible for that. Admit to that shit. Be like, hey, you know what? And here's the thing. People say that there's no racism in America. But if there's no racism in America, why do people like Brandon Tatum point out Joe Biden and his racism and his son's racism and shit? But there's no fucking racism in America, right? But you got go-to references to point out certain examples that's convenient to fit your argument, your points of argument. Okay? And we all know the history about how he supported segregation, how he called little black kids roaches and shit, how he supported the crime bill, whatever the case may be. How he was in cahoots or friends or had a relationship with a Klansman. Yeah, but there's no racism in this country. And then, okay, if there's no racism in this country, why is it that white people are so conveniently comfortable with calling black people the N-word, using the cops as weapons against black people? They're being the Karens of society that feel like they can tell people where they can and where they can't be and stuff like that. What they are allowed and what they're not allowed to do. You know what I'm saying? That sense of entitlement. You know, that privilege. That's the privilege that people be talking about when somebody feels that they have the luxury and what you call right to tell other people where they stand in society, what they can and cannot do. You know, only I'm entitled to do this. I don't know why them black folks over here doing what they're doing. They don't belong here. They don't belong here. But there's no racism, right? But then when a black person reacts, now it's a problem. When a black person voices where they're coming from or standing up for themselves, it's a fucking problem. No, hush, Negro, know your fucking place. Shut the fuck up. Don't say nothing. But the Brandon Tatums and the Candace Owens don't address those particular fucking points. Instead, they're right there with the motherfuckers. Yeah, you know, them motherfucking Negro, them no good fucking niggers don't know what the fuck they're doing. They should know their fucking place. Yeah, if they only fucking listen, if they only fucking did what they were fucking told. Okay. 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 But we won't talk about white people and how they act and how they don't do what they're told. And they tell you to go fuck yourselves and go right about their way doing what the fuck they want to do. And dare you to challenge them. But anyway, that's enough of my rant. Um, I didn't want to make it really racial, but it's like when I'm looking at some of these fucking PTA meetings and these parents that are getting all bent out of shape over some shit that's, you know, it's not even in the class to begin with. You know what I'm saying? And they're not going, especially if it has anything to do with people teaching anything about black people's history. They're not going to allow it in the fucking schools anyway. So I don't understand why the fuck people getting hot and bothered about it, because you've already won without putting forth the effort into fucking winning to begin with. You've already gotten your way before you even had to make a point to say something about it. Don't shit really go in black people's favor or in regards to, how should I say, conveniently accommodating them. It's always accommodating you guys. For the most part. I mean, yeah, there are a few examples here and there where, in order to balance the playing field, certain things had to be put in place. You know? But, you know, being that, I don't know, like, how should I put it? What did Brandon Tatum say? He said in one of his videos, he said that his education came free. His wife, who was white, had to pay for her student loans or whatever the case may be. And I'm saying there like, okay, I understand that. That's, whatever. But I said, if you want to go there, if you want to go there, okay, if you want to make it a black and white issue, then explain to me this. Explain to me this, okay? With the education, why are these people who are foreign students get a free pass? And people who are here that are black, because not every black person gets a free pass and shit. You know what I'm saying? And if you do, you have to play a fucking sport, or you have to be really smart, or you have to come from a family who got money and shit like that. Like I said, that's how I was able to go to fucking school. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't given no fucking free pass. Everything that I had to do had to be paid for, my college included. I wasn't given no fucking pass on anything. You know. So Brandon Tatum, you was fortunate in that aspect. But my parents, they had to bust their ass, they had to work, and they had to fucking pay for everything for us kids to make it in life. And they even instilled work ethics and all of that stuff, to be respectful towards people, to not be a hindrance to society and stuff like that. But I guess conveniently, the examples of those like my parents are conveniently left out of certain arguments, because people like my parents don't fucking exist, right? Whatever. Anyway, until next time, until next video, peace.